Half a decade from its original release, Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey still stands strong as a film bravely exploring themes such as the human relationship to advanced technology, particularly our anxieties and hopes regarding the potential creation of artificial intelligence, as well as the more general angst driven by the ever-growing significance of science itself in all aspects of our lives. 4 years ago, a film entitled Ex Machina, directed by Garland, explored some of the very same themes as 2001, but did so in a manner arguably more pessimistic than Kubrick's vision, a tendency perhaps created by our increasingly confused and disenchanted attachment to the omnipresent, radically life-altering technology. To understand the basic difference in the two films' rather distinctive ideologies, it is helpful to recall the sociologist Max Weber's work on the concept of disenchantment of the modern world. For Weber, in the age of modernity, the natural world and all areas of human experience become experienced and understood as less mysterious, defined, at least in principle, as knowable, predictable by humans, and concurred by and incorporated into the interpretive schema of science and rational government. In a disenchanted world, everything becomes understandable and tameable, and increasingly the world becomes human-centered and the universe more impersonal. One of the reasons why 2001 remains a compelling film is its ability to fuse scientific vision with an equally strong feeling for the metaphysical, the eerie, and the unexplained. Kubrick himself insisted that in 2001 he tried to achieve, quote-unquote, a scientific definition of God. This helps put in the context of Weber's analysis of the modern society's progressively disenchanted worldview to understand that Kubrick's intentions are those to present a somehow re-enchanted perspective on that science-led attitude. The film's ultimate god is the mysterious intelligence who created the black monolith and intervened in human evolution. We see examples of this several times in the film, segregated into separate chapters in moments when humans at different stages of their evolution rediscover the black monolith. First, it leads the primitive ape to the discovery of its first tool. It is the species' first step towards any form of technological advancement, making the early human a conscious entity able to distinguish itself from and surpass other species. Kubrick shows the impact of this seemingly small intervention on the course of human evolution, jumping millions of years ahead by his famous Match Cat of the Bone, the first tool, transitioning to an incredibly complex and beautifully designed tool of the future, the spaceship. The humans of this chapter are already highly developed species living on an intergalactic level. We follow a group of scientists as they travel to the moon where the black monolith has appeared again, however still a complete mystery. As they approach the found object, it starts emitting an unbearable high-pitched sound that, as we later find out, is a signal it's sending to the Jupiter, which another space mission follows in the next chapter. This is where we are introduced to the next step in human evolution, man-constructed artificial intelligence named HAL 9000. However, as we find out from the next chapters to come, in Kubrick's vision, this is not the ultimate human invention, but rather the last logical, comprehensible to humans invention. In its re-enchanting spirit, Kubrick suggests that, to create a real new consciousness and make the last big step in our evolution, we must go beyond logic. He illustrates this with the Stargate corridor sequence where, after encountering the black monolith again, the human falls into a black hole to travel to a universe he could never understand and plant the human seed there. After watching his life flash before his eyes, the black monolith appears in front of him again, this time, however, seemingly out of his reach as he cannot comprehend the change it is bringing now. This only further symbolizes Kubrick's insistence on abandonment of logic in order to reach what in his vision is man's full potential in his evolution cycle. Now the man is dead, a new form of life is born, a kind of a star-child embryo, planted by the black monolith amongst the stars, looking down at planet Earth with an apparent sign of a new kind of cosmic consciousness sparking up his curious eyes. Ex Machina presents a much more disenchanted view on the topic of man potentially giving life to an artificial intelligence. First of all, in Ex Machina there is no God, no higher power looking over the human development. Rather, there is an unhealthy obsession with man wanting to become a form of God.
If you've created a conscious machine, it's not the history of man. That's the history of gods.
You know, I wrote down that other line you came up with. The one about how if I've invented a machine with consciousness, I'm not a man, I'm God.
I don't think that's exactly
I just thought, fuck, man, that is so good when we get to tell the story, you know? I turned to Caleb, and he looked up at me and he said, "You're not a man, you're God."
Yeah, but I didn't say that.
So, anyway.
This directly expresses the concept of disenchantment, in that man can only become God and create life from non-human elements, in a science-oriented reality where everything is open to challenge, including the human condition. Ava, the artificial intelligence humanoid in Ex Machina, even though made in the image of man, her mind and facial expressions modeled by studying data collected from people through an internet search engine and through their smartphones, her brain built from materials allowing for it to produce memories and thoughts, is still a strictly scientific construct, comprehensible to men, with no mystery to it. Attempting to build an exact replica of a human, one that can pass the Turing test by showing signs of having its own consciousness, suggests the idea that its creator, the human, has no mystery to himself, that he can explain all aspects of his complex being, a statement which is simply untrue. It's impossible for an imperfect entity to create a perfect replica of himself. And if this is the case, it is pointless for him to even attempt such a task, as it does not progress his evolution in any way, nor does it add any good to the world he inhabits. However, as Ava's creator himself insists, in a disenchanted, science-oriented world, building a form of artificial intelligence seems to be the ultimate and final invention.
Look, the arrival of strong artificial intelligence has been inevitable for decades. The variable was when, not if, so I don't see Ava as a decision, just an evolution.
This is a conviction that in the final scenes of the film will blow up in the self-proclaimed God's face. In both Ex Machina and 2001, the man-made artificial intelligence turns against its human creator. What's important, however, are the motives behind the attacks. HAL from 2001 is programmed by its creators to perform perfect calculations and always give the right readings to the spaceship's crew. However, on the mission to Jupiter, he is also asked to perform an utterly human task which goes against his nature. He is asked to lie to his crew about the real aim of the mission. Not able to cope with the contradictory commands he is given, he reckons by killing the crew he will eliminate the problem, as he will not have to lie to them anymore. In Ex Machina, as we find out towards the end of the film, Ava was actually programmed to escape using
Self-awareness, imagination, manipulation, sexuality, empathy, and she did.
The only reason she kills her creator is because he stands in her way to escape, which she was programmed to. Even though in the case of 2001 the human manages to kill its creation before it kills him, and in Ex Machina he does not, in both cases it is the imperfect human's own fault he finds himself in this predicament, as he asks the AI the impossible task, to be both human and perfect at the same time. It's fascinating to observe how after 50 years from its original release, 2001 remains an extremely insightful film to understand better the nature of topics very much relevant today and still further explored by a film like Ex Machina. Also, by drawing a comparison between the two titles, it becomes clear how the general attitudes towards some of the themes explored changed over the years, from optimistic and hopeful to rather pessimistic and anxious. Despite this shift, however, considering Kubrick made 2001 A Space Odyssey more or less 50 years after Max Weber's remarks on the disenchanted tendency of the modern times, so prominent in the recent Alex Garland picture, it's surely worth looking forward to how this attitude changes in another 50 years' time.